I never thought I'd catch my own sister stealing from our family's company. But when you've spent 15 years in corporate finance, you learn to read stories in numbers. And these numbers were telling a story of betrayal. My name is Sarah Chen, and I'm the Director of Financial Analytics at Chen Global Investments, a company my father built from nothing into a $200 million investment firm. That Tuesday morning started like any other, with me reviewing quarterly reports in my corner office on the 32nd floor of downtown Seattle's glass and steel skyline. The board meeting's been moved up, Jessica, my assistant, announced, poking her head through my door. Your sister Rachel wants everyone in the conference room in 30 minutes. I frowned, checking my watch. Rachel, our CFO, never changed scheduled board meetings without at least a week's notice. Something was off. Did she say why? Jessica shook her head. Just that it's urgent. Oh, and she specifically said to bring the key 3 projections. I nodded, already pulling up the files on my laptop. The key 3 projections had been bothering me for weeks. Small discrepancies, nothing major on their own, but together they formed a pattern that made my forensic accounting background itch. Rachel had been CFO for the past 5 years, taking over when our previous CFO retired. I was next in line for the position, having worked my way up from junior analyst. But Rachel, fresh from her MBA at Harvard, convinced Dad she was the better choice. We need fresh perspectives, she argued. Someone who isn't stuck in old ways of thinking. Dad agreed, of course. Rachel had always been his golden child, the one who followed his exact footsteps. Prestigious business school, strategic consulting, all the right boxes checked. I was the quiet one who preferred spreadsheets to spotlights, who found beauty in balanced books and truth in trial balances. I gathered my materials and headed to the conference room, my heels clicking against marble floors. Through floor-to-ceiling windows, Seattle's autumn rain painted gray streaks against the glass, matching my unsettled mood. The conference room was already full when I arrived. Dad sat at the head of the table, his once black hair now steel gray, but his presence still commanding. Rachel stood at the front, impeccable in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. Board members filled the remaining seats, all faces I'd known for years. Ah, Sarah, good of you to join us, Rachel said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. I hope you brought those projections. I took my seat, sliding my laptop from its case. Of course. Though I'm curious about the urgency. We'll get to that, Rachel replied smoothly. But first, Dad has an announcement. Dad cleared his throat, straightening in his chair. As you all know, I'm approaching 70. It's time to think about the future of Chen Global. We need strong leadership going forward, which is why I've decided to announce my succession plan. My heart skipped. This was it, the moment I'd been working toward. With Rachel as CFO and me next in line for CEO, we could lead the company together, sisters united in continuing Dad's legacy. Rachel will be taking over as CEO effective next quarter. The words hit like a physical blow. Rachel's smile widened as murmurs of congratulation filled the room. I sat there, frozen, as she continued speaking. Thank you, everyone. And speaking of changes, I've been reviewing our executive structure. We need a stronger financial team going forward. That's why I've brought in James Morton from Goldman Sachs to take over as CFO. I found my voice. What about me? Rachel's expression was perfectly sympathetic. Sarah, you're excellent at analytics, but CFO requires broader experience. James has an impressive track record with major financial institutions. He'll be starting next week. I've been handling our finances for 15 years, I said quietly. I know this company inside and out, and we value your contributions, Rachel cut in smoothly. You'll be reporting to James, of course. Your experience will be invaluable in helping him transition into the role. I looked at Dad, but he was studying his tablet, avoiding my eyes. The rest of the meeting passed in a blur as Rachel outlined her vision for the company's future. I sat there numb, my mind racing over all the small discrepancies I'd noticed in the books, all the patterns that had been nagging at me. As everyone filed out, Rachel caught my arm. Sarah, I hope you understand. This is what's best for the company. I met her eyes. Is it? Or is it what's best for covering your tracks? Her smile flickered. I don't know what you mean. The key 3 projections, I said softly. The offshore accounts, the missing millions. Did you think I wouldn't notice? Rachel's grip tightened on my arm. Be careful, sister. You're making accusations you can't prove. Yet, I replied, gently pulling free. Have a good day, Rachel. I walked back to my office, mind already forming a plan. Rachel thought she had won, thought she could sweep me aside and bury her schemes under new management. But she'd forgotten something crucial about me. I wasn't just good with numbers. I was excellent at finding stories hidden in data. And I had been gathering evidence for months, building a case file that would blow her perfect plan apart. Opening my secure email, I sent a message to Mark Jean, an old friend from my forensic accounting days who now worked for the SEC. Need to meet. Bringing files. It's big. His reply came within minutes. Tomorrow, 8 a.m., usual place. I stayed late that night, copying files, cross-referencing transactions, building an airtight case. Rachel had been clever, but she'd made one crucial mistake. She thought I was just the quiet sister, the one content to stay in the background. She never realized that sometimes the quiet ones are the most dangerous. As I finally left the office near midnight, I passed Rachel's new CEO suite. Through the glass walls, I could see her on the phone, laughing, celebrating her victory. I smiled, thinking of the USB drive in my pocket and tomorrow's meeting with Mark. Let her laugh. In 24 hours, she'd learned what real power looks like. The next morning dawned gray and cold, typical Seattle weather that matched my mood perfectly. I arrived at Café Noir at 7:45 a.m., choosing a corner booth where I could watch both entrances. The USB drive in my bag felt heavier than its physical weight, laden with evidence that would shatter my family's carefully constructed facade. Mark arrived precisely at 8, looking exactly as he had when we worked together at Deloitte, rumpled suit, perpetually worried expression, and the sharp eyes of someone who lived to find financial irregularities. He ordered coffee before sitting down. This better be good, Sarah. I can sub 2 meetings for this. I pulled out my laptop and the USB drive. How does $50 million in fraudulent transactions sound? His eyebrows shot up. That would do it. Show me. For the next hour, I walked him through what I discovered. Rachel had been clever, but her scheme had classic tells. Shell companies, inflated invoices, offshore accounts cycling money through a dozen jurisdictions. She'd hidden it well beneath layers of legitimate business, but the pattern was there if you knew where to look. Here's the clever part, I said, pulling up a spreadsheet. She used our family's old holdings in Hong Kong as cover. Dad still has connections there from when he started the business. She routed everything through companies that looked legitimate on paper, but when you trace the ownership. Mark whistled softly as I showed him the connection, all leading back to a holding company in the Caymans, and let me guess, she controls it? Through 3 layers of proxy ownership, but yes. She's been siphonning investment funds for years, small amounts at first, then getting bolder. The missing money shows up in her private accounts disguised as consulting fees. This is solid work, Sarah. Why didn't you bring it to your father? I closed my laptop, sighing. Would you believe your golden child capable of this? Rachel spent years cultivating her image as the perfect daughter, the Harvard MBA, the one who could do no wrong. Dad sees what he wants to see. Mark nodded, gathering the printouts I brought. We'll need to move fast. Once we start the official investigation. She'll try to destroy evidence, I finished. I know, but I've got backups of everything, and there's one more thing she doesn't know about. I pulled out a second USB drive. Remember that audit software we developed at Deloitte? I modified it. It's been running in the background of our systems for months, tracking every transaction, every deletion, every attempt to cover tracks. Even as she wipes everything now, we have it all. Mark's worried expression broke into a rare smile. Always the thorough one, weren't you? Okay, I'm taking this up the chain today. Be ready. Things will move quickly once we start. I spent the rest of the morning in my office, pretending to work while watching the investigation machinery grind into action. By noon, I could see unusual activity in our network. SEC investigators quietly accessing our servers, gathering their own evidence before Rachel realized what was happening. At 2 p.m., Rachel burst into my office, her perfect composure cracking. What did you do? I looked up calmly from my computer. I'm not sure what you mean. Don't play innocent. The SEC is crawling through our systems. Did you go running to them with your paranoid theories? Paranoid? I stood slowly, facing her across my desk. Is that what you call $50 million in embezzled funds? Tell me, how long did you think you could keep it hidden? Her face went pale, then flushed with anger. You have no idea what you're talking about. I built this company's future while you played with spreadsheets. Everything I did was for our growth. Growth of your offshore accounts, you mean? Those shell companies in Hong Kong weren't as well hidden as you thought. For a moment, I saw fear flash across her face before she masked it with contempt. You're making a mistake, Sarah, a big one. When this is over, you'll be lucky to work as a bookkeeper anywhere in Seattle. We'll see about that, I replied, sitting back down. Now, unless you're here to confess, I have work to do. She stormed out, but I noticed her hands were shaking. Within minutes, I got an alert from my monitoring software. She was trying to access the offshore accounts. But it was too late. The SEC had already frozen everything. The next few hours were chaos. SEC agents arrived openly now, securing offices and computers. Dad appeared at my door, his face ashen. Is it true? He asked quietly. Tell me you're wrong about this, Sarah. I pulled up the evidence on my screen, walking him through it step by step. With each revelation, he seemed to age years. When I finished, he slumped in the chair across from my desk. How did I not see it? Because she didn't want you to, I said gently. Rachel knew exactly how to play to your expectations. She gave you the daughter you wanted to see. And you? What kind of daughter have you been? The kind who protects the company you built. The kind who believes in doing things right, even when it's hard. He nodded slowly, then straightened up, some of his old strength returning. Show me everything. I need to understand before I face the board. We spent the next hour going through the evidence. Dad was sharp. He'd built this company after all. And he quickly grasped the complexity of Rachel's scheme. As we finished, he looked at me with new eyes. You've known about this for months, haven't you? Been gathering evidence, building the case. Yes. Why didn't you come to me first? I met his gaze steadily. Would you have believed me over Rachel? Be honest, Dad. He looked away, answer enough in his silence. The emergency board meeting that evening was brutal. Rachel backed into a corner, tried to blame everything on subordinates, claiming she was set up. But the evidence was overwhelming. When she realized she couldn't talk her way out, she turned vicious. This company was dying, she shouted. All of you, stuck in the past, afraid to take risks. Everything I did was to push us forward. Sarah's been trying to undermine me from the start, jealous because she knows she's not qualified to lead. I stood up then, connecting my laptop to the display screen. Let's talk about qualifications, shall we? For the next 30 minutes, I walked the board through everything, not just the fraud, but my investigation process, the forensic accounting techniques I'd used, the custom software I'd developed to track it all. I showed them how Rachel's innovative leadership had nearly bankrupted us, and how my quiet work in the background had been holding things together. When I finished, the boardroom was silent. Rachel sat frozen, her career imploding in real time. Dad spoke first. I moved to terminate Rachel Chen's employment effective immediately and to cooperate fully with the SEC investigation. The vote was unanimous. As security escorted Rachel out, she tried one last time. Dad, please. Everything I did was for us, for the family. Dad didn't even look at her. Instead, he turned to me. Sarah, we'll need you to step in as interim CFO immediately, and we should discuss your future role in the company. The next few weeks were a blur of SEC interviews, legal meetings, and damage control. Rachel faced criminal charges. The evidence was too strong for any other outcome. Dad threw himself into rebuilding the company's reputation, finally seeing me as a true partner in the business. 3 months later, I sat in my new office, the CFO's suite, reviewing the latest quarterly reports. We'd survived the scandal, emerged stronger. Dad had announced his retirement, recommending me as his successor. The board agreed unanimously. Jessica knocked on my door. Your father's here to see you. Dad came in, carrying a small box. Found this while cleaning out my office. Thought you should have it. Inside was an old photograph. Me at 7 years old, sitting at his desk with a calculator, pretending to do his books. I remembered that day. Rachel had been outside, charming investors at a company picnic, while I stayed inside, fascinated by numbers. You knew even then, didn't you? Dad said softly. What you wanted to do. I nodded, touching the photo gently. Numbers don't lie, Dad. They tell stories if you know how to read them. I'm sorry I took so long to read this story correctly. He squeezed my shoulder. But you proved something important, sometimes the quiet ones, the ones who work in the background. They're the ones who really keep everything together. After you left, I stood at my window, watching the Seattle skyline fade into dusk. Rachel had been wrong about power. Real power isn't in grand gestures or corner offices. It's in patience, in attention to detail, in knowing when to stay quiet and when to strike. The company flourished under my leadership, growing stronger than ever. Rachel served her time, then moved abroad. Hong Kong, ironically enough. Dad finally relaxed into retirement, proud to see his legacy in trusted hands. As for me, I kept my corner office, my spreadsheets, and my habit of checking the numbers personally, because some lessons you never forget. Like how the quietest person in the room might be the one you should watch most carefully. Every morning, I look at that childhood photo on my desk and smile. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone else's power. It's about finally claiming your own. And sometimes the most powerful moment isn't when you expose the truth. It's in all the quiet moments before, when you're building your case, one number at a time. Knowing that when the right moment comes, the truth will speak for itself. After all, numbers don't lie, and neither do I.